Hi, how are you? You know, one of the great joys of working at Neptune Theatre and being its artistic director are the people you get to work with on a daily basis. And there are many, many people that work behind the scenes at Neptune Theatre to make sure that our audiences have a great experience. The box office staff, for example, they're great. The crew behind the scenes, they're great. But the people that are on the front line, along with the box office staff, are, of course, our front of house people. The people that get you into the building, they get you seated, they get you watered and fed, they show you where the washrooms are, they look after you, they call an ambulance if you need one. All kinds of things happen at Neptune Theatre over the years. And I'm hoping that my guest tonight will spill a little and tell us a few stories, maybe some stories that they don't usually share. So I've gathered together some of our front of house staff, three that you will recognize if you come to Neptune, I'm sure. Let me bring them all in right now and welcome them to the studio. We have Spencer Creelman, Kathryn McCormack, and last but not least, Julia Williams.
Yo.
I miss you guys. Look at your faces. How are you all?
It's weird. It's really bad right now, but this is really nice.
It's good to see you. And it's good to see each other. Look at you all. You look like some weird, crazy-ass version of the Partridge Family or whatever they are. The
Brady Bunch?
The Brady Bunch, that's it. I'm English.
I think we're more the Brady Bunch.
I don't know.
God knows. God knows.
I like the idea of traveling around in a bus, though. That sounds fun.
I think, well, I think with that light show behind you, Spencer, I think you may have been traveling around on a bus already.
No judgment here, Jeremy. No judgment-free zone.
Listen, what I want to know is, first, how are you doing? Where are you located? And do you have a beverage with you this evening? Julia first.
Okay. I'll go first. Was that it? I missed that. Okay, so I am located in my apartment, which I have moved into not quite a year ago. So yay, Julia's back in Halifax. Buckle your seatbelts. Yes, I have a beverage. I have lovely water with me this evening.
Lovely.
Yeah. And wine. Come on, let's be real. Okay? And I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Missing my family dearly, I have to say, missing the grandbabies and not having their hugs. But I do virtual calls every day with them, so that keeps me grounded.
And and have any of you done a drive-by visit to anyone, even though we're probably discouraged from doing that, where you stand outside on the street?
Guilty.
Yeah, Julia's dropped by my place.
Oh, really?
Yep.
One of her grandkids.
My grandkids are in Lower Sackville.
Okay, fine.
So it's harder. But every day I like to get a walk in anywhere between 5 and 10K. Yeah. And one day I decide to go Connaught Avenue and cut up and ended up by Spencer's house. So did a nice drive by in the backyard. Social distance.
Of course.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Spencer, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I am, at my house, similarly to the rest of you, I imagine. And I'm going a little stir crazy because, you only get one drive-by with Julia every month or so. And I didn't think to grab a beverage before we started this, so I'm going in dry.
Well, in a minute, I'll ask Julia a question that will take us on a 15-minute journey into the history of Neptune Theatre, and then you can sneak off then, and no one will ever know.
Great.
Kat, how are you? Where are you? Are you safe and secure?
Honestly, I have just been jet setting all over the world. Flights super cheap right now, so really taking advantage of that. Just kidding. I am at home. I am an asthmatic with 60% lung capacity, so I am inside all day, every day, loving it.
Okay. Yeah, please stay inside.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's start talking about Neptune Theatre. Just very quickly, one or two word answers. How long have you been associated with Neptune Theatre? Let's start with Spencer.
Associated?
Yeah, I'm keeping it vague.
Right.
In utero.
What's that?
In utero for you.
Yeah. I'm how old? Like 33, 34?
We don't
so
know.
about that many years.
Yeah. Cool. Matt?
Spencer is part of a monopoly. People may not know this. There is like, is that the word, a monopoly? Like a royal family of Neptune, which is the Creelmans.
It's a clan.
Neptunism.
Yeah. He's a clan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about you, Kathryn? How long have you been associated with Neptune Theatre?
Well, actually, I've been there like 6 months less than Spencer, off and on. Also, definitely about half my life. So, yeah, God, honestly, I think about 15 years off and on.
We've worked there
back
for
like a siren.
In front of house. We've worked for 16 years.
Oh wow! Yeah,
which
And
is
they were all
nothing
good.
compared to Julia.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. It's not
Put
my fault.
us all to shame. I've been associated with Neptune for 22 years, so that's pretty good. But you?
Currently 39.
Wowza.
Next season will be 40.
your career is older than Spencer and I.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It looks so much better.
Wow.
Yeah, really.
It really does. In fact, let's just take a look at some of that right now, because I asked these people to send me some photos, and of course, none of them did until the last second.
Wait, I have to stop you right now because I know our team, which is a team, is watching. Maybe some of them, but we have a little group called the Heartbeat of Neptune Theatre, which is.
I didn't know that.
But I solicited for photos today and got a whole bunch and sent them to Jeremy via an iCloud link that he could not open. I'm so sorry.
Wouldn't let me in. But I did manage to go through your Facebooks prior to the show, and I now I know that I am safe right now in isolation from Julia Williams physically assaulting me when she sees some of these photos. Well, actually, you know what? They're all beautiful photos that she's obviously proud of because they're on her. There's one.
Oh my God, Greg Gillis.
Guys, it is. You can actually lean around the lean around the photo, everyone.
Please make note that I did go with the pink shoes as well.
I noticed that.
Yeah, good job.
And who's that with you?
That's Kyle?
No, Craig Gillis.
Craig. Oh my God.
Craig Allen.
Craig, and I saw Craig at Christmas.
Hand right now.
I just hope someone.
I saw him at Christmas time too.
All right, there's another one. There's another.
He fell asleep watching a show this year.
There's a nice one.
No, here's the drama. I'm here for Spencer.
Now, yeah. So let me tell you, I went looking for some photos, and I discovered, everyone, that I think our front of house stuff, which quite often is populated by performers, right? Is that fair to say?
Right. True.
Don't forget my
Well, you know,
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
as am I.
Quite often they're more theatrical than any of the people on stage, and there's more drama. So, to give you an example of a couple of pictures I found.
We were so young. We were so young then.
So young.
How beautiful we were.
Spencer.
That was before Spencer could grow a complete beard.
I know. Look at those
But
patches.
look at him now.
And then there's this one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
That's
so now
not
I am right next to here. I am sandwiched between Luke Brown, who I think still works with Ron Ulrich at
Yeah.
Aquarius.
That's the other Aquarius. Yep.
Matthew Creelman, Spencer's
And
brother.
Matthew, yeah.
There's Naomi. Is that Naomi there? Yes.
That's
Yeah.
Naomi. Next to her is Michael Bennett, Nigel Bennett's son.
Wow.
And on
Very
far
nice.
left is Tim, who takes all the photos for opening night.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then you have Carrie and
And
oh yeah.
I did find some more. That's a little more recent.
Cute.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that cute bun.
Right.
And I think
You
that's
had a clipboard. Must be-
photos. And then I don't know what show that's for.
I don't know, but Simon Henderson's in there.
Simon Horn
Yes,
is
he
very
is.
hefty.
I think actually Kristen, who's on who's right next to Simon, there next to me,
Yep.
is the only person there who's still working front of house, and Julia, obviously.
Right, because Randy's gone, and
Yeah, Julia's gonna. So Julia, what's it? How many front of house managers have you had? Sounds like a strange question, but you've been there a while. You've been what?
I've been there a while, and I'm thinking, if I'm not counting all the little fluffy ones that came in and out.
The little fluffy ones.
Oh, we had little fluffy ones.
Julia Williams in line. We've not found one yet.
I'm really thinking it's been 7, 8 really good ones.
Yeah.
And I'm not counting like the little fluffy ones that are in there. And that includes like Bruce Klinger, Keith,
Yeah.
McPhail.
Let me
then
hold,
we went to Jimmy.
Let me hold your thought there. I want to hold your thought there because some messages have come in. I was neglecting my duty, and I just want to show you these messages first. Hold on. There's so many of them. This is the most messages any Off the Leash broadcast has received during the broadcast.
This could be an hour-long special. I have a lot of dirt to share.
We're
more approachable.
Hey, Naomi.
Naomi.
What we'll do is we'll do a fake out at 30 minutes, and then we'll just keep going and keep watching.
Sarah English's sister, Avery.
Yeah,
Jean.
Avery Jean. Oh,
Yeah.
look.
Terry.
Oh, hey, Allison.
Oh,
And wait a second.
Boo. Boo.
So this.
Oh,
I didn't
Stuart.
do anything.
Oh no.
I only have gin and frozen blueberries at any moment.
The question is, why aren't you there?
That's to Hannah, for sure.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she asks, well, I tell you why. I'll tell you for why. Because there's only enough space on the screen for 3. And
You're lying.
No, I'm lying.
You had 6 last night.
Hold on. Apparently,
Just
Hannah is
saying.
now stalking us.
That
All
is
right. I'm going to fly through these messages because I want you, Creelman, to see. There we go. Okay.
the other Creelmans.
Yes, a special hello to Janice, who I'm sure is watching because she told me she watches. Janice mans our reception desk, and like a number of people, unfortunately, due to this crisis, has been laid off at the moment, and I miss seeing her every morning. Even though she won't believe it when I say that, she keeps me in order during the day, every day, like she does everyone, and I need order in my life. Yeah, it's a good question. I actually vote that we should all start a petition to.
Never shoot ponies up.
Yeah, I think we can name something after Julia. I'm not sure what.
The third stall in the lower.
Family is watching this.
Yeah, see, nobody believes me. Now look, Stuart is dropping.
It's funny. I was going to mention this earlier.
Yeah.
You asked, had anyone driven by? Had I seen anyone? I
Yeah.
did ignore Hannah. That is true.
Right.
But Stuart Legier has twice dropped off sourdough bread. Once it was still warm. I know. I kid you not. The best.
Stuart Legier, if you dropped off bread to my house in the next 3 or 4 days, if you wanted to be a guest on my show, that would not in any way be a bribe. And then we could talk about your music. We could talk about your career. It would just be you, Stuart.
Can we just sidebar to how great Stuart Legier's show was that he had streamed from the NAC?
I was just weeping.
I know.
It was beautiful. Gorgeous work. Gorgeous.
All right. So look, I want to get
Yes.
back to this. I need you to understand. So we were going back. You were running through all your fluffy stage managers. We've acknowledged the fact that Hannah Zees, who is stage managers, house managers. We've acknowledged that Hannah is still currently one of the house managers when we all get back to work.
Kat and Hannah, the dream team.
Yes,
Katana.
known as.
There's been no word whether Julia is considering you two as some of the fluffy ones. However, talk a little more, Julia, about the good old days. Stuart's going to check his schedule. Great. Please do. But first, bring it. All right.
My God, the good old days. I was thinking about this, and you had asked for pictures, but I have something that is not a picture. It's an old VHS recording, because for every musical that used to happen in the old Neptune Theatre, there'd be a cabaret night.
Right.
And when Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, when they did that, we were trying to get a raise really hard, and Denise Rooney was the GM at the time. So we, front of house, did the begging scene from Joseph, where we were asking for like 5 cents more.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. I still have it on VHS, but who was house manager? Bruce.
That was Bruce?
No, actually, Keith McPhail was the front of house manager, because I think I'm sorry. Bruce was front of house manager when we did that.
So
Bruce Klinger.
Who came after Bruce?
After Bruce, it was Keith McPhail.
Yeah, and then after Keith, because I'm trying to get the chronology.
He came into
Jim
Smithson.
Jim Smithson. I think he was the house manager when I first arrived. That would be 22 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, because Jim started at the old Neptune, the original Neptune.
Right. And I remember Jim sort of for the longest time anyway. It may not have been long. It just, it seemed like he was a bit of a partnership with, who was his deputy house manager at that time?
Ruth.
Oh my God. Have you seen him at all recently?
I see Jim more than I see Ruth, mainly because Jim is working for Empire or whoever.
Hello.
And Hannah's in it.
Oh my God, it's like I'm on daytime TV.
Well, as I said, I see Jim because he works at the theater in Lower Sackville, just down the road from where my son lives.
Yeah. Well, when I knew you were coming on, and I know that Julia is approaching her 40th year with Neptune. I actually managed to stalk Jim down today. Ruth very kindly. Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, guys. Hello.
Hi.
Great to see you. They both sort of came sort of agreed to be on the show at the last minute in the last day or so. Jim, literally about half an hour ago, I managed to get hold of him finally and send him the link to the show. So for those of you that don't know, Jim and Ruth were part of this team. For me, it feels like you were there.
They were the first dream team.
Yeah.
They really were.
Dream team.
They worked so well together, hand in hand.
Right.
We were there for 10 years.
Yes. That's because we had keys to the bar fridges, Jim. That was the only reason we were the dream team.
That's right.
It's quite interesting. I don't get keys. The one key that I don't have is to the bar.
Good.
Yeah,
Well, Jeremy, if you were in with the backstage crew at the old Neptune, because we didn't lock it, it had a chain around it with a padlock, and there was some give to it. So what they would do is they would come in and cut the links,
right,
and drink, but they always paid. They always paid for everything they drank, and then they would just relink the chain with one less link in it. That's how it was done back in the day.
It's not like that anymore.
Yeah,
Similar, but
so all of you, this is a question. Raise your hand if you have an answer, and I'll come to you. It's navigating 5 people is always fun, but I couldn't resist having you all on. The craziest thing that ever happened as a front of house team member at Neptune, when you
can't talk about it.
Oh, well, I think Julia, I think you should talk about it.
very curious.
We cannot talk about it. People are still alive, and I know Jim knows what it is because his eyes will never be the same. And
did it involve a balcony?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yes, it involved the balcony. It did, and 2 other people.
Yes.
So we can't talk about that one, but can I give you 2 of the best things that ever happened front of house?
Yeah.
At one time in the old theater, we had a beach party. Hi.
Keep going.
So we had
Australia in the house.
yes. So we had a beach party at Neptune in the upper bar, complete with sandbox, sun lamps, music. Everyone came in Hawaiian shirts. It was one of the best parties ever that we had. And in the new Neptune, one of the best parties, but one of the saddest times in our lives was Jim's going away party.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think I almost remember that.
Yeah.
Ruth,
It was
that party like?
that was during the closing of the best little whorehouse in Texas. And Gary Sandy, God love his soul, thought that the party was for them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jim got a very special 21 salute.
Oh, yes.
21 what salute?
It was a 21 boob salute.
21.
21.
So many questions.
This is a family.
So many questions I'm not allowed to ask right now. Human resources rules does not permit me to ask you these questions.
Hey, we're laid off right now.
The most amazing night I remember at Neptune
Oh yeah, Kathleen. Great.
was the and for Gospel at Colonus.
The Gospel at Cologne.
Oh, the party.
To pay what you can for Gospel at Colonus.
Oh, God, yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
night.
What happened? What happened?
Marie
The
McLeod
audience was just
and
incredible.
selling out $5 tickets, reprogramming the entire box office.
It was just amazing. There was standing room only, and the place, it was the most electric I can ever remember that theater being. It was an incredible night. When they booed,
It was a Sunday night.
remember them booing Frank McKay?
Oh, yeah.
Down the stage.
That was on a Sunday night, pouring down rain in the new Neptune Theater. And I was not front of house because that was one of the few times where I was cast as part of the chorus. So I was actually on stage that night. People waited in the rain to get a seat. People who did not get a seat were given $5 tickets to come back at a later time. That night, as soon as the curtain rose, there was a standing ovation before a note was sung.
It was amazing.
Frank McKay was the only white man in the cast.
Yeah.
And he was basically like the pilot character. If you know, he held a note and walked twice around the stage at Neptune, holding the note. Up until that point, they booed him. But when he held that note, they gave him an ovation in the middle of the show. One of the best nights ever at Neptune.
I know that this show is going to overrun, so I'm just going to say to everyone watching right now, settle in, get another drink. We'll overrun by a few minutes, and I'll do a fake out at 30 minutes. But I do want to ask you, let's start with Kat and Spencer, and I'm sure the other three have stories as well. Is Neptune haunted?
Yes.
Yes.
No, obviously.
Obviously. So Spencer, Kat, you go first. Tell me, have you had an experience yourself?
Me?
Or either of you, yeah. Let's go with Kat first.
Okay. Well, so the Neptune is haunted by a ghost named Sid. This is as much as I know. But I do know that actually once Charlie Reindress was working at Neptune, and I assume he booked, because it clearly had not been vetted with anybody who it needed to be vetted with. But it was the group, the Paranormal State Investigators or whatever. It was like an A&E show. Anyway, these people came and they gave a talk to like 20 people in the 500 seat main stage theater. And actually the talk was terrifying. There was at a certain moment within the talk, I turned to Sean Duggan, who was sitting next to me at the back of the house. He was ushering at the time. I said, "Sean, what does that sound?" Because of course I would never speak aloud in the theater. And it sounded like there was a truck like driving by the theater rumbling, but actually I was so scared that my foot was shaking and I was shaking an entire row of chairs. I had no idea. Anyway, turns out the thing was a ghost walk. So we were there till 3 a.m. with these like 20 strangers that just love ghosts to walk all through Neptune. And we did. We 100% did. It was clearly a mistake, but there we were. I'm sure it was a liability problem. But at the very end, oh my God, this is so long, but there was this thing that they were doing. They had you sit on the main stage and everyone else had already gone through and it was just myself and Justin Daykai left, who's still there as one of our sound guys. Wow. And so they were having people sit on stage for like 3 minutes totally by themselves in the theater. And you looked at a red light and you wore things and you wore headphones so you could only hear white noise. And while we were sitting there, Justin and I, afterwards, so we sat there for 3 minutes and afterwards I said, look, I don't want to sound ridiculous, but someone came in and stood behind me and then stood between us and stood behind you and then left. And he said, yeah. So, and there was no one in there. We were the only 2 left. And then we came out and it was just Charlie and the other guys. Anyway, so there are people walking around. And then I know, so that's one proof, ghosts, they are real. And 2, Spencer's brother actually has a story. I don't know if Spencer, you know that one or want to tell it.
I mean, he's never going to be on this show, so I might as well, right?
Yeah, right.
So my brother, in the long Creelman tradition, was an usher at one point, and he was in the house. And protocol is that when someone stands up to go walk out to use the washroom or something, you stand up and you use a flashlight to light their way, and they can find the door and everything like that. And so my brother saw someone stand up in the audience and walk towards the back of the house. And so he stood up doing his job and turned on the flashlight. And then there was no one walking towards him. And so he walked out of the house.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't want to call you a liar, sir, but I have to point out discrepancy that it was in the balcony. So actually he wasn't at the back of the house, he was halfway through. So the best part is he also looked foolish.
Okay, right. So the exit from the balcony is in front of at least 4 rows of seats. So yes. People would have seen him stand up and turn on his flashlight and then not do anything.
That feels important.
So, and then Kat was working in the balcony as well that night, and my brother walked out completely ashen-faced and with absolutely no emotion expressed everything that had just happened to him and then walked back into the theater to finish his job.
That's dedication.
You do that a lot at Neptune. I did that once during the Syringa tree and I came back in and a woman had fainted. So stay inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should be proud you hired all of these people.
Yeah. Well, I had very little to do with it, but I'll take all the credit. Ruth, Jim, any ghost stories that you personally experienced or just hearsay?
No, I didn't experience any ghost issue. I'd heard about Sid when I joined the company, so he's been there a long time. I can tell you in the old theater, we used to have to shut off the water in the bathrooms because the toilets would flush themselves during the show and everyone used to be able to hear it. So that was something we had to do, but I don't think that was Sid. I think that was lousy plumbing.
Basically, I think, I kind of do believe in ghosts because I've had a few theater experiences at different buildings, not at Neptune, touch plastic yet, but I think everything can be attributed to lousy plumbing.
So, Dave Rogerson also saw a ghost, and he didn't even want to tell me that he saw a ghost. So when people who are like, ghosts aren't real, but this happened.
But Dave Rogerson is the building manager and responsible for the plumbing, so he's bound to blame a ghost.
True. He was haunted by a whole rack of costumes.
Ruth, I want to ask you, when you joined the Neptune team, did you know anyone when you joined? I don't know the story of how you came to be. So it was it a part-time additional job? And then you sort of became part of the fixtures and fittings of that place, and you could never leave?
That's kind of how it ended up turning out. I was told by Judy Joe that they were looking for people that works front of house. So, of course, I took my resume and I went down to Neptune Theatre. And unbeknownst to me, when I got there, it was Jim's first day as well. So he hired me on his very first day. And we met he interviewed me in the lower bar of the old theater.
Yeah.
So it was going to be great because I came out of the Bauer Theater in Antigonish, which is haunted.
Right.
Jeremy, you know that for a fact.
Yeah, I'm not going to have my experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had any at Neptune, though Charlie Culver swore that it was haunted, and he kept telling me about Sid all the time. But no, that was my first day, and got told to come back for the first front of house meeting. And that was my first introduction to Julia.
You remember that?
No. You can't say that. I have family
I know.
watching.
It's
You
family.
cannot tell that story.
I'm not going to tell that story.
No.
Well,
Jeremy, I will tell it to you at some point.
needless to
Yeah,
say,
Jeremy, I'll even tell you when I see you in person.
Okay.
I'll just leave it as we were all on time. Jim had started the meeting. Julia was late.
No, that was Julia time.
Exactly. That was Julia.
CP time.
Exactly.
And y'all know what that means. CP time.
So the introduction to Julia was memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my first show was Dancing at Lunasa. And it was a blast. It was so much fun with Jean Morporgo wearing big rubber boots. It was a great show. And
The set on the show was amazing.
yeah, the set was great. And my first season, was the first season the one that Nick Rice fell off the stage again?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. And we finished that year with Les Mis.
Right.
And it was, I remember it being sold to the rafters. Jim
Exactly.
selling tickets to the back bench. And the best thing I ever remember was Tanya Sorrell coming out of the box office because somebody had showed up that wasn't supposed to be there. They had apparently called her earlier in the day and said, no, get rid of the tickets, we can't come. They showed up. So they were in their seats and Jim went to them and said, look, we've got duplicate tickets. Tanya came out of the box office right down to where the people were and went, you are not supposed to be here. You talk to me, these tickets are for those people, you're not supposed to be here.
Awesome.
And they left. It was
the Revolve didn't move for the last act. Do you remember that, Julia? The Revolve failed. Couldn't pull the barricade back.
Remember? And MJ had to go under and turn it herself manually.
And Bruce Godfrey had to fall off the wall.
Off the barrier.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I tell you.
That's one of those stories that I heard in the UK before I moved to Canada, like a few months before I moved, because I always wanted to do Les Mis, never got to do it. Fingers crossed, everyone. But I'd heard stories about that barricade dying at the very last performance, and it being manually or humanly pushed to make its last turn. I want to show you a couple of pictures. So you know what I should do first? Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This was Off the Leash. I want to thank Support.
Thanks so much, Gossip.
I want to thank Support for Culture for their ongoing support of this show and all things artistic and cultural in our community. Thanks for watching. Tune in again tomorrow night. And now we'll carry on a little bit longer. So there we go.
Okay, wait. I have a question about that Les Mis. Okay,
Yeah.
Dude, we're gone now, right? Okay, some dude told me once.
Still live. We're still live.
We're still live?
Yeah, we're definitely live.
Oh, okay, well then I'm still going anyway. I thought we were private. I'm still doing it, but I'll do it like this.
I just ended it up now.
A distinguished patron once told me that he'd come to see that production of Les Mis, and that halfway through, he realized that, like the characters he was seeing on stage, there were poor people in Halifax who could not afford to see the play. So he stood up in the middle of the production and said, "Let them in." This is what this man told me. And then he said, no one said anything. So he said it again louder. "Let them in."
I think I vaguely recall
Everyone stood up and
something
clapped.
like
They
that.
all agreed. Is that true?
I think I vaguely recall something like that happening, but I don't think it went anywhere. I think that people completely ignored that person.
Cool. That person is still a subscriber. I should not have said that.
The only one I would know that might know outside of Jim might be Heidi, because I think Heidi saw almost as many shows as Jim did, or at least was involved. I know I did about 70 or 80 of the performances I was there for. Jim, you were there for like all 90 or 100 of them.
104.
The other person who might,
But I know
who else might know is Lisa St. Clair, because she was in the pit for that.
It was that. She told me that.
Lisa might know.
So look, I want to show you a few things. So obviously, I think whether you work there now or whether you worked there in the past, I'm assuming there's a little bit of affection for the building and for the company. I'm assuming that. And I wonder, for those people that aren't working there anymore, I know I've seen Jim there. Do you what's it like when you come now to the theater and there are these, Hannah and Kat are in charge, and they're trying to get these audiences in and seated and marshalling all these people around. What's that like, Jim? What's it like, Ruth?
It's different today than it was in the old theater in a lot of ways. I think, and a lot of that has to do, I think, with just I don't know if you remember Larry Hines. You wouldn't have known him.
Oh,
Okay.
I met Larry, yeah.
Larry used to stand at the front door of the theater every night that he was in the building, and he could literally welcome every single person coming through the door by name. It was an incredible thing to be able to watch. And I was able to work with him during the time that I was there. And while I was there, I used to walk onto the stage at the beginning of every show and do exactly what you do now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was different in that respect. I think we had a closer relationship with the guests that came in our building, maybe because it was just a different kind of people that were coming in at that time. There were so many subscribers and so many people coming in. And of course, our demographic is changing. And so it isn't like that anymore. Yeah. But I think at that time, I was fortunate to be a part of the old building where you literally stood at the front door in a tuxedo and welcomed every single person through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Took their hand.
How did you afford a tuxedo?
Huh? I had. Well,
you had one.
Jim had a collection of every suit you could imagine. I swear the man had about 40 of them, and he just kept them.
You might still have them.
I have to tell you that actually I met Jim when I worked at speaking of haunted, the Penhorn Mall Famous Players movie theater. And actually Jim there wore an impeccable tweed suit. But Jim was actually then how I got a job at Neptune after he was gone.
I know that suit.
He wore it at Neptune.
I think Spencer Creelman has carried on Jim's sartorial splendor. He's always well-presented, despite having some kind of growth on his chin, the size of I don't know, Amherst. He still manages to look respectable. I want to ask you a couple more questions, but first, there's a couple of. Here's a nice message for you.
Oh,
Marla!
All the way from.
Got rid of your mural.
Yeah, and Heidi.
Yes, they did.
Heidi!
6.
Yep, she watched over 60 shows of Les Mis, yeah.
Probably from the balcony, too.
Shall we talk about the time Heidi fell on her head?
She fell on her head.
Should we?
Should we?
Heidi, can you answer that?
In her new piercings?
What is she called?
Yeah. Or opened a bottle of red wine during the opening night of the brand new building. I think the stain is still on the roof if you go downstairs in the bar area.
We did one worse. There was an onstage bar for once, and I think it was Terry Beckwith. I'm calling you out by name. That whole
Do you
thing.
remember Lorca's wedding at the theater?
Oh, wow.
That was
married at
swanky.
And the wedding's reception was at the theater in the rehearsal halls, and we had set up the tables, and you know, it was really fancy, and it was an amazing evening. We and all the front of house staff were the service people for that event, and it was an incredible pile of fun. We were there till 5 a.m, maybe.
But who cared?
Yeah,
I'm sure that was legal. So let me ask you. I've got a few pictures here of the most recent renovations. I don't think people have seen these. Well, they haven't seen these ones because I took them and I've never shared them. But this is what the auditorium that you all at home sit in looks like when all the seats are removed.
Yeah.
And it was the spookiest thing. When I went into that building that day and took these photos, I walked in and it appeared to be the size of a living room. And the optical illusion of having no seats in was quite spectacular. There we go. But I want to say that, you know, you folks have spent a lot of your lives marshaling human beings around the building. I just got a few pictures. I need some crowd pictures. So that's from Cinderella when we had 450 kids come through.
And that's Julia.
And that's
there,
me.
right?
Where are you? Oh,
That's me, just at the corner there.
Yeah. And you were so good that day with those kids. My goodness, it was. And I tell you, that day, watching those kids watch that performance and then watch you all interact, whatever, with them, made my job entire. I was like, if I get fired tomorrow, this day was worth it. But what I want to ask you before we do wrap up a second time is
the gossip.
The gossip. So, what, Spencer? Let's start with you. I'm sure you must have one. Oh, no. So, patrons do things they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Oh, dear Lord.
What's happening? So, like, I mean, it could be anything. Technology, everything.
I mean, my two favorites. One was during Cats when and Neptune Theatre never overserves patrons, but sometimes patrons show up and they've already been served elsewhere. And there was a lady in the front row on the left-hand side that was yelling at the cats because she wanted those kitties to come over here.
She wanted to get rum-tum-tugged.
Yeah, she needed a little McCavity in her life. So I escorted her out of the theater immediately, as Nova Scotia liquor law recommends, and like instantaneously, she had found somebody on the street and she was gone. Party somewhere else. My other favorite was, and it's so simple. It's like there's nothing to it, but it made it into the coast because it was so ludicrous that someone's cell phone ringtone was the first 2 bars of "Sweet Child O' Mine," and I believe it was during the Syringa Tree, which is a very quiet one-woman show. When those first 2 bars went on and on and on.
Sweet child of mine.
I'm sure everyone was singing it by the time the night was over.
That's amazing.
Oh my God.
Jim?
The one I remember, there's lots. But the one I remember, and you were talking about student matinees, so I recalled it. There was a student matinee, and we had loaded all the students in, and the play was just about to begin. And all of a sudden, out of the front right of the orchestra, a paper airplane fluttered into the stage. So I quickly moved down the aisle, and I pointed to the person who threw the paper airplane, and I said, "I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to get you to sit at the back of the auditorium. And she looked at me and she said, well, you can't do that. I'm a chaperone.
Wow.
Does anybody else have I don't want to say naughty patron because we love our patrons at Neptune Theatre, but a patron having a momentary lapse in judgment?
Oh God, we've had them light up cigarettes.
Oh, I remember that
area.
Yeah.
Pop open the beer. We had an entire school pull halfway through Les Mis because the ladies of the evening took the stage, and all of a sudden they just all got up en masse and they walked out.
But you also had the students who would sit next to their significant other and decide to find out what was under the sweatshirt.
Look, now, not even just high school students. Once during Chicago, there was, I'm going to say, a well-to-do couple.
What about Mamma Mia? Didn't we have some amorous moments during Mamma Mia?
Look, your direction was so good on that show, Jeremy. People were just dropping trowel.
I'm gonna do my Justin Trudeau slow-mo hair thing.
I had two that were in the very back of the balcony,
Yeah.
in behind the chairs, that are open. Yeah, going at it.
Yeah.
With the rest of their classmates watching. I remember finding, Julie, do you remember finding the can of Sterno in the downstairs after one of the student matinees? It was down on orchestra left.
We had Sterno. We had empty pints.
Oh yes.
We had condoms.
Yes.
The empty bottle of Bailey's is the one that impresses me most.
Yes.
Oh no, that could have been fun of us.
Yeah, that was very.
I've been to a few of my own shows that I've directed where I wished I had a full bottle of Bailey's. Let me tell you.
And some bottle one young New Year's Eve. I can assure you, you wouldn't have wanted that.
I'm
I
really
still think one of my favorites. I'm going to cut you off, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Do it.
Is some lunatic, and he shall remain Jim, gave a rather eager Jeremy Webb a megaphone during "Pay What You Can" for a Christmas Carol. And he was wandering around outside announcing to people, because he had Timbits to give out, he was giving away Tiny Tim's little bits.
I didn't actually say that because that would be very inappropriate and not the kind of thing that an artistic director would do.
You weren't artistic director
You weren't
then.
artistic at that time, no.
I wasn't artistic at that time.
But man, you sold it. It was great. The audience loved it.
Yeah.
We laughed our heads off.
That was actually 1998.
There you go.
I remember very well. Kat, do you have a story by any chance of you've had to deal with some actors in your time, other than when you're acting as an actor yourself, which you do apparently, so the Coast tells me every year. Although I've never seen anything you've ever done and you don't audition. So, however, because you refused. So, except that one time, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So tell me, actors, sometimes they get caught in unusual circumstances or in unusual situations. Do you have a story about one particular actor that you had to deal with?
Number one, it has always been my dream to be on a talk show and clearly have like a story pre-planned, and you bring it up and I'm like, oh, off the top of my head.
I know, I'm just asking, just in case.
Right before we came on, I was like, P.S. Jeremy, remember when this happened? So there was a clown show in the studio, and it was fantastic. It was called Red Nose Bastard, we believe.
Yep.
So the show was like, this guy, he was a clown, and he just went through the audience, and he would just like rip people apart. But he would like start small, and then he'd get to a point where it was like he crossed the line, but then he'd come back and you wouldn't know. So then at the end of the show, to like make amends for this, he got naked. So he got fully naked. He was wearing this huge, horrible thing, and he like, it was the worst striptease you've ever seen, just sweaty, and like all these balls started coming out. And then suddenly he was wearing his underwear. Yeah, sorry, just like bouncing rubber balls is what made him so bulbous. This story's going really well, I think. And then
The man with multiple balls. Mm.
so at the end of the show, he's fully on stage, and then he's naked, and then he's like, I don't know how to say this, but he's beyond naked for quite some time. But then he leaves. The show is over. Everyone claps. Everyone loves it. So I'm standing in the lobby, and of course he leaves the stage naked. And usually for front of house, that's it. We see the actors go off stage, we clap, and then maybe we see him later for a drink. But this time I was in the lobby saying goodbye to everyone, and someone like knocked on the door. It's like, hey, the actor's getting arrested out here. So I like popped my head open. So apparently, well, not apparently, Neptune is quite a labyrinth. So he went out the wrong door, and I'm sure this has happened to all 6 of us, that at a certain point you get locked in a stairwell and the only way out is out. So he, naked, came out in front of the Pogue Fado, which was still open at the time, and all was his pair of wings. So he was wearing one and holding one. And then by the time he made it up around to Argyle Street, he got arrested right in front of the loading doors, which is like 2 feet from the entrance to the theater. Anyway, I had to go out and sort of say to the cops, like, this is the thing. And then the cops came in and they were like, yeah, so like, why is this man naked?
But at least
being mean to people. And then he got, it's a whole thing, and he had makeup. It was bad. It's great.
Yeah, at least his face was all white so that like he had some buy-in for the clown aspect of it.
Yeah.
Or he could have been a weird stalker.
Or a weird stalker.
Yeah.
Weird stalker.
I
think that had happened to him before.
That's one of those stories that is so well known in the theater community that it can't possibly be true, and yet every time I hear it, and I actually met that guy for a drink that week with John Beale, his good friend, actor John Beale, and I was like, really? And yes, he literally he turned right and went through a door instead of just turning left and going down a stairwell, and suddenly the only way out was onto Barrington Street.
Look, it is a trick though. When you come off the studio backstage, you're looking directly at a door that leads you into stairwell with every door's locked, and to the left of that is your dressing room. Stairwell. But
absolutely. That's one of my favorites. Look, we are very close to wrapping it up officially for the second time. I just want to here we go. A good idea. Alison Palmer wants us to write a show.
Look, everyone that has ever worked front of house has independently come up with the idea. We need to write a show about front of house, and we do.
There are so many.
Yeah.
So we could do easily 4 seasons of just the good stuff. And then the not so good stuff. Look at Gwen. Yeah. The not so good stuff for another 3 seasons.
Absolutely.
Look,
But you can also do an upgraded version too of all the stuff that we can't say.
Well, I think what we need you to do then, I think what I will do is I'm going to start getting you folks to write these stories down, and even if it's and it can be anonymous, and even if it's just published online somewhere, I think a sort of a behind the scenes but front of scenes story book would be amazing. And certainly it would be a great thing to have lying around the green room just to read it. So yeah. Look,
we have to change names.
I want to thank
change
you all.
the names to protect the innocent.
Change all the names.
Yeah.
And if there's
There's
any
nobody innocent.
no, nobody's innocent. We've all seen things in that building.
There's Inquisition over here.
Spencer's pretty innocent. We've all seen things in that building.
Sure.
We've all seen things in that building that are burned on our retinas forever. I mean, I tell the story often about. I tell the story once about going down the other stairwell, walking past the band pit, hearing some noise in there, and investigating because I was kind of nervous. I think I was the publicist at the time, and I opened the door quietly, and there were 2 people engaged in a moment of joy that was very personal to them on a drum kit. And
on the drum kit?
Yeah, on the drum kit. And I won't mention the show, but I recently encountered one of the people involved because we were talking about those kind of situations. And one of the people involved said, "That was me." So
Look, I gotta tell you, if you ever think you are alone at Neptune Theater, you are not alone.
No.
Kat,
And I'm not talking about the cameras.
Kat, just tell me one thing that came up a little while ago. I'm going to see if I can find this comment because it was a prompt to get you to tell a quick story. And this will be our last story of the day, I think, folks. I can't find the comment. It was basically, can you tell the viewing public about the time that you tried to get Jeremy to come back to the theater at 1 a.m.?
I could not tell that.
Why not?
Okay, look. I can tell you
End of scene.
The elevator pitch.
Yeah. So in the past, if someone makes it into Neptune, there are a lot of locked doors, and there's a door that leads to our office hallway, which is the basement, and it's the only office around. And if that door is left unlocked, which it normally is, if you get into the building, that's like the only place you can get to is our office. So our office once got broken into late at night. So I'm at Neptune late at night. It's 1 a.m, and I'm always scared of people, of ghosts, of everything. I'm a scared sort of person. So I generally try to get done, and then I like run up the stairs and leave and see you never. I had the cameras open so I can watch the doors as well, because again, you're never alone. So I like to watch and see when the crew leaves. And then when the last crew person leaves, I know I'm actually alone. So I had seen on the camera that Jeremy Webb had left, and it was probably like 12:30. It was after a pay what you can. Those are very busy nights. You got to get ready for opening now that you've seen the show.
Let me just interject. I was leaving the building late at night because I'm a hard-working person.
I don't know. There's something to do with a drum kit, maybe? Anyway. So, I don't know what you were up to.
Bazinga!
And that was that. I'm just kidding. No, that's gross. I don't know who did. I do want to know who did that, though.
You're gross, Jeremy.
Anyway, so foreshadowing, I had earlier taken down a picture of the cast of The Color Purple that we'd had up in our office for a really long time because we love The Color Purple. Big show here. Big fans, front of house. And I'd put it in the recycling bin. So there I am. I'm working, and it's very late at night, and I hear someone outside the office door. And the office door, our office, the front of house office, is in the basement. There are no windows. You're in there. There's one window into the hall. So I'm like frozen, thinking, oh my God, there's a person here. I can't leave. So I start I really slowly grab my phone. I'm like, Jeremy, there's somebody here. I need your help. Please come back. Are you still close by? I also texted Laura Caswell, probably 8 other people that I thought might still be in the building. And
Sarah Richardson, you texted Sarah Richardson. She's messaged about it. Yep.
Anyone that I thought might still be there, I did message. No one was there. It really and truly was just me. And whoever was creepily just I'm saying just lightly touching the door. Whoever was out there was a freak. Anyway, Jeremy Webb, hero, truly, that he is about to get in his car and come back. And he's like, pack up your stuff and just get out of there. So anyway, turns out it was the piece of paper that I put in the recycling bin was just really slowly. But boy, that piece of paper was a real threat.
Yeah, you're responsible for her.
So that's all I can say. You were scared of getting paper cut by some mass murdering piece of 11 by 17.
This gorgeous picture of the 3 women of Color Purple. That was coming to get me.
That's a great story. I just wanted to make you say that in public, and I wanted it on tape so that I can tease you about it forever now. So, folks, I just want to say that one of the toughest things right now is not being around the people that we work with on a daily basis in Neptune Theatre. But True. I am so grateful that, as far as I'm aware, everyone is at home and isolating and is safe and doing okay. I also want to say that our front of house team, our box office team, do an amazing job on a daily basis. Our box office team right now are handling thousands of calls from people that had tickets for shows that have been postponed, shows like Billy Elliot. We're working right now to find a place for Billy Elliot to be postponed to in our schedule, and we'll be updating you on that very soon, I hope, as soon as the government tell us what we can do. But I want to say that the people that I'm sharing this screen with right now represent a gigantic team of people that have worked at Neptune over the years that are always energetic, always fun, always they always have the audience's enjoyment and pleasure and safety at the top of their mind, and they do an amazing job. So I just want to publicly acknowledge not only these people, these 5 people that are here with me now, past and present, and in Julia Williams' case, the future as well.
Forever.
Yeah, forever. She's like Doctor Who that won't regenerate. Anyway,
I regenerate. I have a son. I have 2 granddaughters. Jonathan worked there. I'm staying long enough for the 2 girls to work there.
You do.
Then I'm out.
I know. Let me finish my tribute, because I just want to say that seeing these faces tonight reminds me of how much we appreciate them, how much we love them, and how much we thank them for all that they do on a daily basis, and some of the craziness that they have to put up with. It's so great seeing Jim and Ruth together on this screen again. Neptune misses you. Our audience that are still around, that were around when you were there, I'm sure you do, and I'm sure that hopefully this video will get passed around. So I just wanted to say that to you all. So thank you. Stay safe, please, so that when we reopen our doors, the 3 of you will be there, and hopefully the other 2 of you will come and visit and share a drink and watch a show together. I'd love to sit down after a show with all of you. Folks, thanks for watching. That was actually the second part of this edition. I knew it was going to go long. I didn't realize it was going to be 2 half-an-hour episodes. So thanks for watching. I again want to thank Support for Culture for their invaluable support of Neptune Theatre and the cultural and arts community. If you enjoyed this, please go to the Neptune Theatre website, where you can catch up on all the past episodes that you've missed. Tomorrow night is a very exciting night. Oh, look at that. I've got a banner right across.
Hey, you did that last night too.
I know, that's because I forget. I know. I'm so glad you watched it last night.
Look, Front of House they are the biggest fans of every show, including yours, Jeremy.
Thanks. So Michael Rubinoff, originating producer of Come From Away, will be with us, along with Broadway actor Astrid Van Wieren and George Maswell from the Toronto company for a Come From Away special. What is the question?
Who is that young man?
What is the question I am asked the most in my career? And that is, when are you getting Come From Away at Neptune? Well,
you know it.
I won't ask them that question, because that will be mean and it'll put them on the spot, but somebody else can. So I just want to thank you again for coming. That's fantastic.
That's Hubert.
That's humor. Take care. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you very shortly. Take care.
And
Bye, Jeremy.
Wakanda.
Wakanda.